want to thank you, Evan Kraft, for chatting with us at the Christian Beat about your debut book, The Extra Mile.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited about it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious kind of what inspired, I guess, the shift. Because anytime us at the Christian Beat would have talked with you before, it would have been music centric. So I'm just curious kind of what inspired you to go on this journey?
Yeah, well, it's not even like a new story in my life. It's something I've been working on for years and years. Actually, this September, it's been 7 years since we did the bike ride. Uh,
Hmm.
I was not like I tried to do athletics in high school, but I was more like into theater and choir and even math and science. But I went on this bike ride because I had kind of checked off a lot of things that I wanted to do in my life by 25. I had toured, I was living with my best friends. We played it, I talked about it in the beginning of the book. We played for like 80,000 people in Bogota, Colombia. And I was like, where do you go from there? Like, like I really love music. I love songwriting and putting out music, but I wanted something that was tangible and that required something more of me. And so that is I mean, just reading the Bible, like it it was easy to see that getting outside of my comfort zone meant taking a leap of faith. And so that was the beginning of this crazy journey. And a lot of amazing things happened while my friends took the a leap of faith.
Absolutely, I'm sure. So I'm curious then, kind of what you expected the experience to be, and then kind of now looking back on it, where was that the same? Where was that different sort of situation for you?
Yeah, I think the expectation, was this is just going to get a lot of attention. It's going to be something that, like when you're trying to bring attention to the gospel, like, you're doing crazy, wacky things just so that someone will listen to you for 5 minutes because you're like, hey, I actually really want to tell you about this. And so in the concert, it's like when you're focusing music towards young adults, you're competing with so many different things. And so I already had a lot of influence in Chile and Argentina where we did this bike ride. And so I thought, okay, what would really like grab their attention and also be like not just it would be a metaphor, but it would also be a physical representation of like, hey, I'm willing to do anything for the gospel. I'm willing to go the extra mile. I could fly in a plane down to your country and then take a car, but I'm going to actually pedal. And so that was the beginning of it. And another thing that we really wanted to do was raise money for a local charity. And so we were reaching out to people and I don't want to give away too much of the book, but that was what was so significant about this bike ride was what it turned into. We invited two Venezuelan Paralympic athletes, and like I assumed from their pictures and talking to them that they had prosthetic legs. They had both lost a leg in a motorcycle accident, found hope through cycling, and then found hope in Jesus on our bike ride. But we had some major issues, and my sister's a doctor, and there's a cliffhanger at the end of one of the chapters. It's like Alex is going to need a new prosthetic leg. And it's like, what do you do with that when you're 27 years old and you have like organized for 18 people to go across two countries on bikes? We did have, some support vehicles while you're doing concerts. I mean, I felt under-equipped. It was scary. And so, um, I think that like what's so powerful about that is that I had to truly rely on God and say, okay, he has not put me here for no reason. He is faithful. He has never let me down. So I'm going to keep going. And I had an amazing team around me. And I think that that story will help inspire other people to get outside of their comfort zones, go the extra mile, is the title of the book,
Hmm.
and really show the love of Christ in a radical way.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I like about what you're doing as well, and you've done it with your music too, is you're making it available not only in English, but also in Spanish. That's obviously important to you. It also has to do with where the bike ride took place. But do you want to talk about a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, well, especially when we were th thinking about like release dates, the publishers were like, "Oh, okay, we'll do English first," and I was like, "Absolutely not. There's no way in my lifetime this will." I did not want the Spanish to come across as an afterthought. I actually have been able to do the audiobook myself, so I sat there for 2 full days, like 10 hours, reading the English audiobook, and I did the Spanish audiobook. And I mean, I learned Spanish I started in high school. I have a degree in Spanish from college. I studied abroad in Spain, Costa Rica, but it was a trip to Mexico that changed my life. And I met my wife in Mexico. She's from Cincinnati, blonde hair. I mean, I never would have thought that that's where we would have met. But, it's been such a part of my life because that's where God has I felt like I ran up against a lot of walls in other areas, trying to do English music and I don't talk about it a ton in the book, but then I go to Mexico and I'm kind of like, okay, all right, like I didn't make it in music, I'll be a missionary. And that's what God has for me. I felt like I didn't make the cut. And so I'm in Mexico. I'm I'm sitting at a church. I asked the girl next to me, "Hey, do you know how I could get involved in like I didn't even speak Spanish well. Like how can I get involved in the worship team? This is a 4,000 like seat auditorium." And she's like, "Oh yeah, my dad's the pastor." And so it was things like that where like the grace was evident. So when people ask me like, "How do you know you were called to Latin America?" God flung open these doors. And so, like there are moments where I've had to really, really just press in and work and hey, this may or may not have been God's absolute will for my life, but I'm going to keep going because it's not like I'm working against him. But there have been other moments where I'm like, I've seen firsthand and I've witnessed God really directing my steps. And so that was one of the things that my music was all in Spanish for 8 years. I didn't release almost anything in English until 2020. And so I'm glad this book is in English because I think that it will help share the story for people like me that grew up in an English speaking family that have not even a drop of Latino blood, but I think that when we start to learn another language, we start to talk to other people from different backgrounds, different experiences. I mean, like I got to live with these two Venezuelans basically and see their struggle, their hopes, their dreams that were crushed, and then see how God would restore them. I mean, that is like that when I think of at the end of the day, what did God do in my life?
Mhm.
I mean, he brought me closer to his sons and daughters in different countries and showed me what he can do through my life with them. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm very excited because if someone reads it in English and then they want to try to read it in Spanish, like that's how I learned a lot of Spanish. I would buy the Chronicles of Narnia in English, then I would read it in Spanish. And so it's my heartbeat. I speak to my daughter. She's almost 2. I speak to her in Spanish every single day because I want her to be better than me. So, so yeah, that was a long answer, but I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's important for sure. And we touched on it a little bit, but I'm just curious for you. Obviously, there's a lot of differences in the process of writing a book versus, writing music or anything like that. But I feel like there's probably some, I don't want to say similarities, but there's kind of those same kind of tenets that you're trying to put into the words, even though they're going to be spoken, they're going to be read, they're not going to be sung. Just curious kind of how you went in with that and what your mindset was about that.
Yeah, I mean I definitely had help writing it because it's funny like I don't have a problem like sharing some of my deficiencies and weaknesses, but I never felt like I was a strong writer. It baffles me that I'm a songwriter. But I think the nice thing about songs, you only have a certain amount of time. Like it really forces me to be more succinct
Hmm.
and brevity is great. but writing a book, you have to tell a story. You have to give background and details, which I'm like, well, can't I just give you the bullet points to this? And so I have a friend who helped me write the book and really elaborate. Like I sat with him for days and just shared what happened, and then I had to like go through and re-edit with him, and so it was really fun, but it's a very different experience because I mean, but even with songwriting, I don't write by myself. A
Right.
lot of the times, like my biggest song, Be All Right, I co-wrote that with two people. And so this was a collaborative effort that I got to work with somebody who's much more experienced than me. Um, but going into it, you get to say a lot more. And so that was what was probably the coolest part about writing a book was, hey, how do like I'm not just alluding to like a biblical reference. I actually get to then say, hey, I've read this somewhere else. I want you to hear it here. I want you to maybe here's also some resources. And these are the truths that I found, which are is very difficult to say in a song. So yeah, and there's less copyright issues with that because I can actually put at the bottom, this is where you can find it.
Absolutely. I'm curious then for you, this is obviously, as you've mentioned, been many years in the making and kind of what you see from it in your life today, that you're still like looking back and realizing it kind of came from this whole experience that you went on.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this was my first real experience with Venezuelans. I had lived in Colombia, I had lived in Costa Rica, but this was during a crazy financial, economic just disaster in Venezuela. And so a lot of Venezuelans started leaving. And, even where I'm at today, I live in Tennessee, and we're doing a Spanish worship night this weekend at an English church. And, I have Venezuelan friends that are coming. And so I have this background and this understanding of who they are, what they've been through, what the gospel means to them. Um, and so that has been one of the coolest things, and why I encourage people to travel, why I encourage people to make friends with people that have different backgrounds than them. But I think that it shows me that I actually couldn't put my finger on it for a long time, and somebody explained it to me um, that one of the things that like gave me so much purpose was that I was physically doing something. And I think that for a lot of people that are like I talk about like depression because my band quit, and there was a physical aspect to what I was doing. So it was like hard work. There was like, my calling, being able to sing, being able to use my gifts. But the third and I think the most important thing was the purpose, was that I had a very direct purpose of not only just physically getting to the goal, but raising the money, doing it with friends, sharing the gospel. So when, I'm 34 today, and I struggle with this because I now have a family. I can't just like up and say, "Hey, I'm going to go cycle across a continent for a month." But I think for people who are looking for purpose, and looking for meaning in their life, those three things can have a huge impact as you're following Jesus. And so, it takes you outside of your comfort zone. Working out is uncomfortable. Sometimes finding your calling is uncomfortable, and finding purpose is, because most purpose means you're doing something and you're having an effect on people outside of yourself. And so, those are the things that I take away and get to apply them to my life today and find out, okay, how can I continuously do that? And it's different. I probably won't ride my bike across another continent, unfortunately. I would love to, but I have two kids, and there were a lot of close calls next to some semi trucks. So it's not something that I even said in like the beginning, like I promise my daughters I'll find another like hobby. But it it really taught me that like true purpose and joy is found serving other people and finding purpose in that.
Oh, absolutely. I know we're getting close to time, but I think that kind of ties into what that last question that I had for you was, is everybody reading this isn't going to be able to go do that journey physically, like duplicate what you did, but I'm curious kind of how you see that that can be in so many different lives and kind of applied in that way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have an incredible father-in-law that he works his church and they built a park for the community. And there are tons of families that are there every single day and he found purpose doing that. He built a preschool. My dad is the director of a homeless shelter in Los Angeles and I mean, if you want to talk about purpose, like bringing people from the darkest moments of their lives to having safety and having shelter. I mean that to me is an example of you don't have to build the park. You don't have to start the homeless shelter. You can serve. You can serve at a food bank. You could serve at a crisis pregnancy center. You can serve at your local rescue mission. You ask your church like how to get involved. And I think that, I mean, even just in like I live in a really cool neighborhood where the houses are not like super spread out. There's not like big lots. But like my neighbors, when we just had a baby, they all brought us food. Like they were showing us the love of Jesus in a very real, tangible way. And so I think just taking, like what is true religion? It's taking care of the poor and it's taking care of the widows, taking care of the orphans. Like that is when are doing whatever you're doing, you're an accountant, you're a teacher, you're interviewing people. Like if you can, that is your job. But when you get to serve other people, you find your God-given purpose as well is to be a light. I think of the Great Commission is to go out and share the good news. So it sounds really simple, and I think it is. It's hard as a human being to execute on that all the time and stay in that rhythm. I mean, I don't know how to do it with two kids yet. It's very different, but I do know that I want to be an example for them, to love people, to be involved in my community, to care about people who, the immigrant, the foreigner, people who are like coming out of war-torn countries and give them a hand up. So that's where I think, nobody has to go get on a bike. Get on a bike because it's fun, but nobody has to be on a bike and cross a country in order to show the love of Jesus.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to thank you again, Evan, for taking the time. I've enjoyed getting to hear more about the journey, what it's done in your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much.